Hi guys, so I've recently finished rewatching all 5 seasons of Black Mirror and I've decided while it's all still fresh in my mind to do a video ranking all the episodes from my least to most favourite. I wanted to do this from last summer when season 5 was released but I just never got the chance, so I thought now that I've rewatched all the episodes I'll finally get round to doing it. I find Black Mirror to be such a great show. I just thought it's one of the most thought-provoking and reflective shows that I've ever watched and I'm recommending it to people all the time now. I know many people have already done this type of video, but I do enjoy getting other people's opinions about what they think of the episode. So feel free to share in the comments what your ranks are and what you think of the episodes in general. Before I begin, I want to say that it was quite hard for me to rank the episodes because I was taking into consideration not only the technology aspects of each episode, but the actual story as well that was developing. So there are some episodes where I found the technology was great, but the story didn't do a whole lot for me, and vice versa. One other thing I should add is that I haven't included Bandersnatch in this ranking. It was okay, but for me, I just wasn't sold on the whole interactive aspects of it. I just prefer these individual episodes where the fate of the characters is already determined for you. I should also add, although it's pretty much a given, there's going to be major spoilers ahead. And I'm also only giving my opinion. I know everyone's got their own opinion and people are going to have their own ranks and their own favourites and least favourites, but I thought I'd make that clear from the beginning. So let's kick things off. So my least favourite episode was the Waldo moment. The episode just didn't do anything for me first time round, and after watching it again, I stand firm with that opinion. It's just lacking a story with which I can get into. It's just probably because the Waldo character just bored and annoyed me, to be fair. But I think it would be nice to see a future episode with a technology slash political spin, because I feel that both could work well together so long as the story is more immersive. Up next for me is the national anthem. Now I know many people may be surprised in where I've placed this in my rank, but it's the first episode of Black Mirror, which should really be giving us a taste of what is to come. And for me, it just didn't do that. There was no innovative technology in the episode, which you become accustomed to watching throughout the Black Mirror series. And for me, once you get over the crazy idea of the Prime Minister having to have sex with a pig, it's just got very little to reflect on. I always enjoy my Black Mirror episodes to leave me wondering what if, and this one just didn't do that. In at number 20 for me is Metalhead. So I'm not sure how others felt about this, but I did really enjoy the fact that the episode was shot in black and white. It helped reinforce that cold and bleak end of the world outlook for the characters involved, as these robotic dogs have clearly gone rogue and are wiping out mankind. Other than that, though, I just didn't feel that I could take much else away from the episode, and it wasn't one to leave a lasting impression. Okay, next up, we've got Hated in the Nation. Now, with this episode, I feel that it did have the potential to score a lot higher for me because I thought the tech was really good. The drone bees, I thought, were a very clever concept, and the fact someone can hack them and do as they wish is something you expect. I think you expect that in like a James Bond film from a villain within a James Bond film. Linking it to the power that social media plays in society also made it really interesting, and the fact we learned that the actual targets in the end were the people who were joining in the hashtagging was a really good twist. But the down points for me were that overall it was just too long of an episode. I think it could have been shorter, and I'm not sure how others felt about this, but the performances of the main characters, for me, I couldn't take to them. Up next, we've got Men Against Fire. So again, I thought in this episode the technology was brilliant and I thought the story was also strong, but what dragged it down a lot for me was its execution. I know the fact the story focuses around military and soldiers, it does limit its scope somewhat, but I just felt that I couldn't relate to the main actor again in this episode. I found myself drifting in and out, and it could have been a lot more, in my opinion, based on what the tech involved. The idea that you put this implant in soldiers to make them see normal human beings as these zombie-like roaches in order to kill them it's an insane idea. If I was ranking solely on technology, I would have put this episode a lot higher in my ranking. Okay, next we have Playtest. So the ending for me is what made this episode. The fact that it actually all took place in less than a second is just amazing. And ultimately, we see that Cooper contributed to his own demise by not confronting his issues in talking with his mother. As an episode, though, I find it to be a bit of a slow burner, and it was only when we see Cooper starting to lose his mind that I became truly engaged with the episode itself, as we learn that this was his biggest fear due to his father dying of Alzheimer's. In at number 16 for me is 15 Million Merits. What still bugs me about this episode is the lack of clarity in why Bing and the others are in this futuristic style prison. I mean, it was briefly touched upon when Bing is speaking with Abby and refers to her as being new, but little else is made clear as to why they are in this existence of cycling every day to earn merits in order to buy food and things like that. I mean, if anyone else is able to explain this further to me, then please leave a comment. Maybe it's just something I simply missed throughout the episode. Overall, though, I thought Bing's performance was great and his speech at the end was very powerful, but ultimately he gave into the system that he had been against all along. So it reinforces that everyone has a price and Bing ultimately chose the better lifestyle. Next for me, we have Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2. So this was the Miley Cyrus episode in season 5. And although there wasn't too much to take away from this episode, I find it to be one of the more chilled and enjoyable episodes in the sense that you can just kick back, relax and enjoy. We did get a more pleasant ending as well as opposed to the usual darker ones we are used to with Black Mirror. Throughout the episode, I did like the idea of removing the limiter off this Ashley 2 doll, therefore the doll becomes Ashley O's mind in full. And I was thinking to myself, imagine if we had that option with AI technology such as Alexa, it would make things very entertaining for sure. Up next, we have Smithereens, and personally, this was one of the episodes that for me doesn't seem so far-fetched. It reinforces how engrossed society has become with social media, especially at the end when we are led to believe Chris has died and people are just carrying on their lives as normal. They're checking their phones to what I assume is a news notification about Chris's death, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to go carry on my day as normal as such. So in the episode, we come to learn that Chris has blamed himself for the loss of his fiancée as he was checking his Smithereens app before the car accident, but he believes that the Smithereen app is addictive, which can be said for many of our social media apps today. I felt that it was a simple story and it didn't need to rely on any futuristic technology in order to get its message across. However, other than the message which you take away from the episode, which includes don't use your phone while driving, I didn't find the storyline to appeal to me as much as the other episodes that I'm going to come to talk about. In at number 13 is White Bear, or should I say White Bear Justice Park. The concept behind this episode for me was frankly terrifying and just so thought-provoking. The idea of sentencing criminals to psychological punishment for their crimes by wiping their memory in order to repeat the same daily punishment and then allowing people to visit this park and play and film along was just such a scary thought. The big reveal is ultimately what made this episode for me, and I'm pretty sure it's what made the episode for many people, because really the majority of the episode, the build up to the big reveal at the end, it's just people recording a woman being chased about not knowing where she is, and for quite a lot of the time I was, you're wondering what's going on, where is this going, but the reveal at the end was fantastic. In at number 12 for me is Hang the DJ. So with this episode we get a look into what might become of dating apps in the future. It was nice to have a different episode in the sense that it was a lot more light and positive as opposed to the usual darker episodes we're used to watching with Black Mirror. The fact the whole episode is just basically simulations of an online dating app, I thought was a really clever way to end it. And I did like the idea of how the system is able to tell you how long a relationship will last. Although technology-wise, the episode didn't really have the same impact for me as other episodes have had, I did really enjoy how the relationship was developing between Frank and Amy, because I did feel that they had really good chemistry together, and I was always wondering, are they going to end up together, or is there going to be the usual cruel Black Mirror twist where something's going to go wrong? In at number 11 we have Crocodile. Now this episode I think was probably the darkest, or one of the darkest, that I watched throughout the series. I found from the beginning it just kept getting darker and darker as it progressed, and it just had me gripped throughout. And the ending was just it was mind blowing. I thought it was mental. The fact Mia went through committing all these murders, including that little baby who turns out was blind, so couldn't even identify her, and yet we find out that her downfall was ultimately the guinea pig. It just really makes you wonder to what extent someone will go to keep a secret like that. I did really enjoy the tech in this episode as well, as we see what could be the evolution of lie detectors in the future, which would ultimately do wonders for solving crimes. So the first episode to make it into my top 10 is Shut Up and Dance. Again, this episode, message-wise, I thought was one of those that was simple yet effective, involving internet hacking, but it also had me gripped throughout. I was constantly wondering what Kenny would have to do next in order to keep his secret safe, and as the things he had to do kept getting crazier, it made me think there's got to be more to what he was filmed doing. The actor playing Kenny did a great job, I thought, in portraying that geeky and scared teenager, and after feeling sorry for him throughout the whole episode, we learn at the end he was looking at child pornography, and the sympathy that you've built up for him throughout, it just disappears as he learns that the video is being released, and then we see all the other victims that have been trolled by the hacker. And now whenever I see that troll face image, I'm going to be reminded of this episode. Okay, in at number 9 for me is Be Right Back. Now this episode, it gave me that kind of futuristic Pet Sematary vibe. I thought it was a really clever concept to have a piece of tech that's able to use all your online interactions and form this like digital version of yourself that someone is able to talk with. It just helps to reinforce how much of our life we do actually put online in order to make such a thing possible. Hayley Atwell's character Martha, in the episode we see that she uses this to talk to her recently deceased boyfriend Ash, but we learn that she isn't content with this alone, and that's where we see things progress further to an android version of Ash. She learns that it may look and sound like Ash, but it isn't Ash's true personality. What I remember vividly from this episode is that scream from Hayley Atwell's character on the cliff. It just shows her pain and anguish, and it just serves as a reminder that nothing can truly replace the loss of a loved one. Next up, we have Archangel. Now, what stood out the most for me in this episode, I thought, was how we see it come full circle. The mother initially decided to use this Archangel technology to keep her young daughter safe because she went missing, but the tech is ultimately what leads to the daughter abandoning her mother. The beginning and the ending, where the mother is screaming and frantically searching for her daughter, I feel helps to encompass this full circle that we do experience as viewers. I think the idea of a chimp implant in order to monitor and control children is a clever concept, but as we come to learn throughout the episode, where do you draw the line with helicopter parenting? In at number 7 for me is The Entire History of You. So this was one of the first episodes of Black Mirror which I found very enjoyable. This is the episode that I would recommend to first time viewers of Black Mirror. Starting off with this episode, I feel gives you a good taste of what is to come in future episodes. To be honest, I should say that after watching this episode a second time, I did bump it up a few spots in my ranking. I thought the tech in this, the grain, is a great idea for future technology. Just imagine having this piece of tech that can record everything you see and hear. And let's face it, the way technology is progressing in life, I don't feel that we are that far away from having something like this in the future. I felt a great moment in the episode for me was seeing the grain in use with Liam at the airport as he was asked to replay his recent activities for security purposes. Just having something like this when it comes to security checks at airports, I think would be a great advancement. But we do see what a detrimental impact it can have in life, because Liam becomes obsessed in using it to prove his wife cheated on him. And I find the ending very powerful as Liam realises what has become of his life as a result of the grain, and he uses the razor blade to cut it out from behind his ear. In at number 6 is USS Callister. Again, I thought the tech involved in this episode was just genius. Using DNA from someone in order to make a clone of them and then trapping them in your own virtual reality where you can do as you like it was just mental. I loved it. And I really did enjoy Jesse Plemons' performance in this episode. He does a great job in switching from the nerd and loner that you feel sorry for at work to a villain you are happy to ultimately see get his comeuppance. It was one of the episodes I felt that had a fantastic story with great humour and great visual effects throughout. So we're into my top 5 now, and we kick things off with Striking Vipers. First off, I want to say that growing up, I loved fighting games like Street Fighter and Tekken, but the technology in this episode takes that type of gaming to a whole new level. Being able to enter the game and experience all the physical sensations which then reset after each fight is just amazing. So if that's the future of gaming, then I'm all in. I can't wait. The story in the episode had me gripped throughout as we see Danny and Carl explore a sexual relationship in this virtual reality. I was always wondering whether their relationship will end up spilling into their real world, and the ending for me helped to reinforce that no marriage is perfect, and in a modern and changing society, compromises are made in order to make a relationship work, even as we see controversial ones such as having a cheat day, for example. In at number 4 for me is White Christmas, or more like Black Christmas. This was such a fantastic episode, I thought, that just kept getting darker and darker as it progressed, similar to the style of Crocodile. It's one of the 2 Black Mirror episodes where we are introduced to 3 different stories or technologies that end up culminating in great endings. In this episode, I found the cookie tech amazing, but as we learn, you can alter time to make your cookie experience what feels like an eternity, and we see the use of the cookie in order to extract a confession, which makes you wonder how it could be used to convict criminals. I'd need to do a whole video on this episode alone in order to explore it in detail, but it's just a fantastic story, full of twists and turns, and a dark, cold ending. Being made to listen to I Wish It Could Be Christmas every day in what feels like 1,000 years per minute is just pure torture. And then being in a world where everyone you see is a grey silhouette, whilst you are seen as a red silhouette because you're permanently blocked by everyone as you're a convicted sex offender, is just... it's crazy what an existence that would be, and far, far from a White Christmas. Into my top 3 now, and in at number 3 is Black Museum. So this was the other episode involving 3 different stories and technologies, and this is also the episode that's full of Easter eggs, as the museum contains various technologies we see in the other episodes, which I found really enjoyable. My favourite tech in this episode though has to be the implant used by the doctor in order to feel pain and help diagnose patients. Now, I feel that if this was to ever happen, then it would be a genius innovation for the medical field, providing obviously that those using it aren't, like sadists and aroused by pain. Throughout the episode, I did really enjoy the character Rolo Haynes and his storytelling of each tech. I didn't see the great twist coming at the end, which was enjoyable, and the only real negative for me is the death of Rolo Haynes. I just feel that his character added that level of humour and interest to each of the stories being told. And I do hope in the future Black Mirror uses this character again. They could explore his career further and the other techs that he was involved with at TCKR. My runner-up spot goes to Nosedive. The idea that we could live in a world where every interaction we have forms our social ranking and impacts upon our socio-economic status is something I find brilliant. Many have compared the concepts of this episode to that of China and its social credit system. I don't know too much about that, so I can't really compare it, but I find this episode entertaining from start to end. The message reinforces how fake people can be in order to gain recognition and a better status, similar to how people argue that social media isn't a true reflection of someone's life. We try and make our lives look perfect in order to get likes on Facebook and Instagram, when in reality they are not like that. I particularly enjoyed the airport scene in this episode, where we are introduced to the idea of double damage as a punitive measure in this rating system. I also enjoyed hearing the lorry driver's story, as we get an insight into how the system works with regards to healthcare. But the ending for me, it brings the message home, as you see swearing and insults flying between Lacey and the other man, because they no longer have to worry about the rating system. You can just see how happy they are in the way they are delivering these insults to one another, and it's as if they have been bursting to finally be free and say what they truly feel. The ironic thing is they are both in jail. And my number one, the pinnacle for me, San Junipero. The story, the acting, the tech, the music, just everything was phenomenal in this episode. I found it very refreshing, uplifting, and emotional, and those aren't normally words I'd use to describe Black Mirror. Being able to ultimately guarantee your afterlife by living in San Junipero is incredible, and the fact you have the opportunity to trial it is even more genius. I've always wondered whether such a tech involving a simulated reality would be an ideal therapeutic remedy for stress or simply serve as an escape from everyday work life. Being able to travel through the decades is something I'd love to do, and I feel the episode captured this brilliantly through the choice of the music, movie posters, and the fashion sense of the people in San Junipero. But back to the actual story, I really enjoyed seeing the relationship develop between Kelly and Yorkie, and they both ultimately got their happy ending together, which added further magic to the episode, especially when you come to learn about Yorkie's past and her accident and why San Junipero means so much to her. It's definitely an episode that has become embedded in my mind, and I will always recommend this episode to first time Black Mirror viewers. And one final note on this episode, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be alone on this, but whenever I hear heaven is a place on earth, bam, this is the first thing I'll think of from now on. So that's it, guys. That concludes my ranking of all the Black Mirror episodes without Bandersnatch. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear which episodes you guys enjoyed the most, or if you have the time, even giving me your own ranking from worst to best. Whilst a couple of the episodes didn't do a whole lot for me, overall I thought the show was fantastic, and I just can't wait for further episodes to be released in the future. Take care, guys, and thanks again for watching.